a live stream, and I'm Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee with the sun in my face, because behind the computer that I'm talking into is a window with slots, and that's why you're seeing stripes. It's the sun. So we're having a sunshiny day here in Israel. It's going to be a nice day. I'll give you the breakdown. And today is the 16th of February, and it's 7:51 in the morning here in Israel, and it's Monday morning, in case you were interested. We're at 61 degrees. We're pulling out for a good warm day. 78 today? Yeah, 78. That's like in New York, that's a summer day. That's where I grew up. So I've lived in Israel many, many, many years. So we're going to have some clouding till I don't really see. I think the clouding's over. Maybe early in the morning we had some. I'm just seeing straight sunshine. And then in the nighttime it gets overcast. So I guess you have a darker night. I guess if we were in a submarine and we wanted to surface to refill our air tanks or something like that, and it was an overcast night, we'd be happy. All right. And the forecast is weird. I'm telling you, this is weird. I don't know how to explain this. No rain for tomorrow, partially overcast, high of 68. You got me. I don't understand it. Wednesday, sunshiny day again, high of 69. Confusion. I don't understand that. Thursday, partially sunny, 66 high. I don't get it. Then, this is more crazy. Friday, we go from 66 high on Thursday to 75 high on Friday. Then we have more sun on Saturday. We hit 78. And then it's still sunny and we nosedive back down to 70. I don't understand any of this. It confuses me. I don't get it. But we're coming out of, the rain has stopped. And that means we're coming out. And like I've told you for a long time, when we hit it good, when the Lord gives us good weather, we will be out of it mid-February, and that's what happened. And that's good. Getting out of it on mid-February is good. Okay. So we're going to cover a number of things today. I'm going to give you the latest updates of what's going on with Iran and America, and it's rather treacherous. I'm going to really get animated when I tell you what I'm seeing. And we're going to talk about another new relationship between India and Israel, but I'm going to bring out the fact that I think it's possible that our fearless leader, who fears not God in Israel, is going to stab the country in the back for his personal whatever reasons. And I'm going to go through that with you, and let's see if I'm right. And he's done it before. Let's see if I'm right. When he did it before, I didn't pick up what I think was really going on, but this time I will. But it looks like there's a big trade agreement opening up. And Israel's going to be selling a lot of weapons to India. And I'll give you a breakdown of what they are. And then I'll give you an idea what India is going to sell to America. And this is likely Trump involved, because he's jockeying India around about where they get the oil from. So he's taking India away from Russia and China for oil and bringing them to Venezuela, that type of thing. Pretty interesting. He wants him away from Iran too. And he also wants to, what he was talking about with Israel is he wants to put maximum economic sanctions, they called, on Iran that stops Iran from getting oil sold to India and China, particularly. Wants to cut China off. So why does he want to cut China off? Because then China will put the squeeze on Iran. Because where's China gonna? I mean, if China calls Trump up and said, "Hey, set me up with Venezuela," Trump will say, "Yeah, when? Today? Next week? What do you want? Any day you want? You know, Chevron will be out there tomorrow if you want. You know." But they've got to expand production. If they're going to supply India and China, that's like a third of the Earth population or something like that, or a fourth or a third of the Earth. And I think Chevron could do it, but I don't think they're going to get it done for maybe 9 months, a year. What happens in the meantime? China and India tell everybody to park their car and walk. What are they going to do, right? So it's an interesting dilemma, you know. Uh, and I keep watching Trump play the game, but he's absolutely filling the role of the hammer of the whole earth and the great voice. He absolutely, you'd have to be delirious to not see that. And that's the sign of the leader of the daughter of Babylon, the hammer of the whole earth and the great voice. Okay. And we're going to talk about, will Trump confiscate gold? It's been done before. Remember, I was talking about the Roosevelt dimes? Well, who did the gold job but Roosevelt? Around 1933 into 34. And I'll go through that with you, and I'll give you a list of other countries that confiscated the gold in the past 100 years or so. And by the way, they're, I think every one of them except one or two is an ally of America. You'll see the list. It's pretty. There's only about 7 or 8 of them or something like that, but you'll see it. And then we'll give you the reasons why I think Trump is going to pull this rotten, treacherous move on the people that voted him in. Okay? First of all, remember this, is we don't see any strong signs of Trump going for another term. Okay? It's a little early, yeah, we're only through the first year, but I wouldn't expect it. No. So what the heck does he got to lose? Okay. Let us go into the live stream and make sure we got it going good.
Cruise lines charge less per...
Yeah, I know the time, it's all crazy all over the place. People come from all over the world, and there's no really good time to do it when you think about it, okay? So the only thing I did is I just said, okay, we'll just go with Israel time. There's no other good way to do it. And I don't think I have any Israelis listening to me. I never hear from any. So I have no reason to believe I have any. I'm reading the chat to see if I'm getting question. Trump is way more than an irritation, guys. He's a myth. He's a front. He's a front runner for fraud and well, I don't want to call him fraud, but he's just not what he thinks, what you think he is. He's anything but that. By the way, I put the list of the Epstein people on my Telegram. I think the list got cut off after the letter S. It goes from A all the way to S, but there's nobody whose name, starts with a V, a Y, so I think the list got cut off. But it's hundreds of names. Elon Musk was in it. Joe Biden was in it. Hunter Biden was in it. Hillary was in it. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. I scanned the list, and 90% or more of the people in the list I never heard of. I never did. Beyonce was in there. I don't know who the heck they are. They could be like the owner and publisher of a bunch of big steel companies. I wouldn't know who they are, All right, I'm going to put a post. So anyway, it's on my Telegram. And if you're interested, I imagine you could just go to Google and punch in list of names from the Epstein files and get the list. But I do have it on my Telegram, which is free. The app is free and all that. Okay. I'm going to put a post up, which is going to take seconds, not minutes. It's pretty shocked that most of the people on there I never heard of. Janis Joplin, who's long dead, she was on there. She was supposedly having a relationship with Grace Slick from the Grateful Dead. Those of you old people remember that. They were both women, by the way. All right, let me pin this up. And it seems to have worked. Okay. I didn't turn it off. Let me get the sound down. Being a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise. We're Old and New Testament. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, I think it's more appropriate, so I'm being led, to do the war stuff with Iran, and we'll pick up the gold at the end, okay? The gold is not real. The Iran war is real. The gold, I think, will become a reality, but we're not there now. And I'll give you all the motives and the signs that I picked up. Boy, I believe Trump's headed in this direction. Now, it's likely never going to affect most countries in the world, just America. And I'm going to give you the whole breakdown. It has to do with BRICS, digital currency, and all of that stuff. Okay, so let's get into the war stuff. I think when you hear me talk about the relationship between India and Israel, you're going to be shocked. Netanyahu is a shocking piece of junk. A real garbage bucket. He's like an enemy, really, in my opinion. All right, let's see where we're at here. I don't see prayer requests. Now, I told you this was going to happen for weeks. And a lot of you that are regulars will remember this. I told you that Israel is likely going to wind up having to attack Iran by itself. And America will not go shoulder to shoulder with Israel, and Israel is going to take missiles. And they're not all going to get taken down. The last time we had the 12-day war in June 2025, which is less than a year ago, by the way, duh, we took a lot of missiles, and people get private property damage, and they submit a claim to the government. The government pays people back for war damages.
Can I get some information from you? Can you step out one quick second?
Yeah, one more step. Okay, I'll be right back. And guys, there was $53 billion of claims. I know, but I made an exception today because of the circumstances you illuminated just now. So, 17% of the Iranian missiles penetrated our 4 layers of defense. I've gone through this so much, I'll go quick. We had THAADs from America, no Patriots, and we had the David Sling, the Arrow 2, and the Iron Dome, 4. Now we got 5, because we got the Iron Beam, the laser system. Now, the great mysteries of Israel. How many iron beams do we have? I don't know. Are there people in Israel that know? Oh, there gotta be, but I don't know how many, and I don't, Israelis, a lot of times they act like children, and they'll come and they'll tell you, they'll make believe they're getting special intel from friends and relatives, and they know what's going on with the war. They don't know nothing. Nobody that ever has this intel in Israel is ever going to sit there and you just spill the beans on it. And if they have this intel, they're never going to sit there and tell you they have this intel, but they're not going to tell you. They're not going to sit there and say, well, I know all this intel, but I can't tell you because if I tell you, I got to kill you. this is something that children do. And they're big, overgrown children, is what they are. You see a 55-year-old man talk like this. I don't know nothing. And anything they tell you is more than likely going to never come to pass. So the people that really have the intel are slinking around and they don't want you to even know they exist. And, they're not going to talk about this stuff. So as soon as the fighting starts, we're going to know how many iron beams there are. No doubt about it. But until then, it's going to remain a mystery. So I couldn't tell you if they've got one or they got 51. I don't know. I have no idea. I do know they've all been tested thoroughly and they're highly effective. They have them mounted on ships. They got them mounted for land. They're usually on a truck, pulling like a low boy or some kind of trailer, and it's on that. They got the high power one will take out hypersonic ballistic missiles. How many of those we have? I don't have a clue. I don't know. Anywhere between 1 and 1,000,000. I don't know. We do have at least one. And I don't think it's a deadly secret, or I mean a super secret, because they're going to be out in public, but it's a secret right now. And then they mount them on ships. So you got them on ships. You can put little ones on like a vehicle, maybe like a tank. That's like a little one. We're not worried about those. So these things could go on a ship, not an airplane at this point. They can go on a ship and they can go on a trailer and they can be mounted at a fixed location. But it's silly to mount it at a fixed location. It's more tactically correct to mount it on a trailer because it's now a mobile system. So if the enemy wants to blow that system up and they get its location and you move it 300 yards, well, they send a missile and it misses by 300 yards, may as well miss by 30 miles, Or they probably would move it a mile away in reality, I guess, or 5 miles or something like that. Okay. So, they wouldn't move it slightly because they might send a drone to look for it or something, or a boots on the ground Arab Muslim spy or something with binoculars. So if it was 5 or 6 or 8 miles away, it would still be effective. Well, maybe not. I don't want to get into the technical. I mean, yeah, it may not be effective several miles away. So you might only move it 300 or 500 meters away, but that would be enough. The missile would miss it. All right. So anyway, we were missing 17%. Now, does anybody, in my opinion, know what's going to happen this next go round? Are we going to miss 17%? Are we going to miss 2%? Are we going to miss 37%? I don't know. What did Iran do to improve their missiles? I don't know. Did they improve their missiles? Well, the likely possibility would be probably 75%. Yeah. But how effective the improvement would be on their missiles is, I don't know. And how effective is the improvements that we made? I don't know. What is my guess? That we're not down at 17% bleed through. We're probably going to be down to less than 5%, but I don't know. And that means we're still going to get damaged. Don't ever let anybody tell you that they have 100% success rate with missile takedown systems. That's a lie. We got 4 of them going, and we were getting 17% bleed through. Okay? So we put the 5th one in, the laser, maybe that pushes us to 2, 3, 4, 5% bleed through. That's dangerous. How, if you lived in, I don't know, pick a place, Ishkabibble land in Kansas, Would you feel good if they were shooting missiles at Ishkabibba land and they were telling you only 4 or 5% are going to get through? Okay. All right. So Netanyahu, what Trump is doing is this. This happened in Mar-a-Lago in December when there was not long ago. It was December 29th to maybe the 30th or even into the 31st that Netanyahu was there. And we're at February 16th. So this is not in the distant past. This is several weeks ago. Okay? Trump told Netanyahu, the great voice, the hammer of the whole earth, told Netanyahu he'd back Israel's strikes on Iran if talks fail. The discussion of a potential attack is ongoing now, says CBS, Central Broadcasting System, not some make-believe, name CBS, that, sounds like CBS, but it's not. No, it's the CBS, okay? Reporter as the second round, said this as the second round of U.S.-Iranian talks are set to start tomorrow, on Tuesday, I believe, in Switzerland, Geneva, or Geneva in English, and it ought to be a debacle. And the Netanyahu, let's call him the Netanyahu, the thing, demands that Iran remove enriched uranium, dismantle the facilities. You see, Netanyahu was smart with this. This is the only way it's going to work, is to dismantle the facilities that make the nukes. Sorry, I have to take this. Yes. Yes. Hi. You're coming 1:30. Yeah. Okay. No, not good enough to carry a good one. No. Correct. Yeah. She comes today. She comes today. Yeah. Okay. She comes on the telephone on the 19th. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay. All right. Okay. Yom Tov. Thanks. All right. That was my personal junk. Okay. That was an important call, or I wouldn't have taken it. Okay. This thing moved on me. Hang on, I got to get back to the top from my notes. Okay, I'm back here. So the reason Netanyahu wants the facilities dismantled for the nuclear is Iran is just going to break it and continue making nuclear material if you don't get rid of the facility. Now, the way to get rid of the facility is most likely going to be a detonation. If you say, oh, Iran's going to take the equipment out, yeah, and what are they going to do? Well, they'll put it in another nuclear facility down the road 3 miles. No, you got to have detonation, and you got to have it witnessed by a reliable source, not the UN. So America would have demolition engineers watching, military, and they would be, half a mile, a quarter mile away, watching the detonations. Okay. And then they would inspect the blown up site to make sure. So if they ever wanted to rejuvenate it again, it would usually when you blow stuff up, and you're talking about blowing it up with, 2,000 pound, or I don't know, a massive amount of ordnance put inside the structure, not from the outside. So it's going to demolish it, and then it's going to cave in. And it would, in most all circumstances, it would be cheaper and more expedient to start over from scratch than to try to salvage something like that was blown up from within. Okay. The Trump and the Netanyahu are both I call them like creatures, right? They're both talking about they want the ballistic missiles of Iran restricted to a range of 300 kilometers, which is 180 miles, which is enough to probably get across the Persian Gulf. Let's make sure, maybe not even. Let's take a look. I never swam the Persian Gulf. I don't know how wide it is, but we'll find out. Okay. How wide is the Persian Gulf in terms of waterway, direct route by air? Missiles travel by air, not by water. So. Okay, it runs 2 to 300 kilometers wide. There is the Pincher choke point, which is the Strait of Hormuz. That's 24 or 39 kilometers wide. So that's just about. You could close that. You could close that with artillery, standard 155 millimeter artillery with the right shell and the right length, barrel, and all that, can go 25 miles. So yeah, you could hit ships with artillery, which is cheap and pretty effective, but missiles are way more effective. I personally think shooting an artillery shell down that's about this big, or maybe this big, is a lot harder than shooting down a missile. The artillery shell doesn't have a heat trail, for instance, right? But it's stupid. It doesn't have any electronic countermeasures. So maybe they could get some sort of lock on it and blow it up. But if you it would be child's play for Iran to put 25 artillery pieces up, and they could fire all 25 in rapid succession, and that would create such a swarm attack. I really don't believe any ship could defend against it. So you could down a ship easily. But moving along, a 300-kilometer cutoff means they're basically going to be able to hit some of the countries inland somewhat, and that's it. Okay. But what happens to the other missiles? Well, you're going to need inspections. people are going to have to come in and watch them be destroyed. But here's what's wrong with this whole thing. Iran has buried missiles in at least 100 locations inside mountains and stuff like that. How are we going to know or find, they have missiles that are going to go, let's say, 1,500, 1,800 kilometers. They could have 100 of those or 200 of those buried in the wilderness of Iran. And how the heck are we ever going to find it? You're not. So what would that give you? That would give you a false sense of security. Now, after a certain number of years, those missiles are probably going to turn to junk. But how many years does that take? I don't know. And what if they have them preserved really well? I don't know. All right. Trump is also insisting that the proxy network by Iran be broken up. But I don't think any of this is coming to pass. I think that Iran is going to make a nuclear treaty with Trump, which you and I know is absurd. If nukes were real, wouldn't they have used them many times over by now? Pakistan, for instance, China, Russia. And if they were real, why wouldn't China and Russia give them to Iran and Iran tries to take Israel off the map? You know how silly it is to believe that they're real? It's nonsense. I know a lot of you looking at, but go search the internet, look for nuke hoax, and you'll see things in the 50s. They were doing nuclear tests and we were getting videos of them, and the people analyzed the video, and what they were doing in the video was using Lionel electric train set toys. So, when you built your electric train on a table and it went around, or you put it on the floor, what they did is they built little community, like a house and a farm and stuff like that. And they had little, they were about this big. I had this stuff when I was a kid, little stuff like, a house like this, and trees, and, little toy plastic things. And that's what they were showing the people when the blast of the nuclear explosion was blowing these things over. It was the toys. That was in the 50s. It's common information. It's nonsense, okay? If they had them, they would have used them. So the Americans also want a handoff or handover of the enriched uranium stockpile that Iran has, which they said they're not going to ever do. They want the halt of nuclear weapon capability, which means they got to blow the facilities up. And they want to limit it on the missiles and the regional proxy stuff then. And there's nothing in there about being nice to the people of Iran. Nothing there. He told them help is coming, and a good 100,000 got killed by now. And where's the help? He'll do this to you, Americans. He'll do this to you. He'll do this to the Israelis. He'll do it to anybody. He doesn't care. He does not care. Don't listen to this president of peace. What is this idea of peace? You make a peace deal with us or we'll kill you. Come on. So how does Trump propose to assist Israel? What did he tell Netanyahu in Mar-a-Lago how he would assist Israel? Same way he's always done it, that dirty dog, just like Biden, another dirty dog. It's the same thing. Aerial refueling. Oh, wow. Intelligence support. Whoa. Possibly help securing regional overflight routes. In other words, they'll get countries to let us fly over to attack Iran. Maybe. This is his idea of how to help Israel. And then what about Israel sitting there taking all these missiles? When we got the 17% bleed through, America had tons of war vessels trying to take down missiles and drones coming in from Iran. They're not there now. They're all the way out in the Indian Ocean. Iran is saying that they're discussing compromises and they're with Trump and trade deals worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. And Iran is openly saying they want the sanctions cut in any deal. Now, look, let me explain this to you. This is, simplistic. If Trump's doing a trade deal with Iran, he has to cut the sanctions out, kill the sanctions. Okay, by definition, really. And his focus right now is, like I told you, to get China off Iranian oil, and then the hope is that China puts extreme pressure on Iran to cave in. But what if China gets mad and says anytime Trump wants to control us, he'll pull a stunt like this on us? So it's really time to attack America. We don't know what they'll say. So what he's doing is not going to help the Iranian people at all. How will it help them? It won't help them. Do I think this is really going to come to pass? No. The part about Israel attacking Iran, I expect that to happen. Without Trump's help, yes. They'll back us with that nonsense. They'll give us weapons, aerial refuelers, intel, try to get other countries to let us do flyovers. even get other countries to get us to do takedowns. So this is, in my book, exactly what's going to happen. And why does he do this? Because we're his proxy. And he's an S-bot, just like Biden, just like Hillary, they're all S-bots, okay? Him and his buddy Epstein, And it's going to drive Israel into more financial distress, okay? Billions of dollars of damage. And he's going to get hundreds of thousands of people to leave Israel. Which will make Satan happy. This is a cup of soup. This morning, I made a cup of soup and a cup of coffee, and the cups looked the same. So I was sitting there. My eyes aren't so hot. So I was sitting there, no glasses on. I'm going to put, not that the glasses really do much of anything anymore. So I was going to put cream in my coffee. I was boiling the water. So instead, I put the cream in the mushroom soup, and it's delicious. I should do that more often. It really made a difference. So is Trump going to keep his military equipment in the area while Israel unloads on Iran? Which is the way I think it's going to play out. Yeah. Because it's a deterrent to stop Iran from hitting the American military bases or from hitting the oil-producing countries in the Middle East. So is it possibly the scenario that it starts out with Israel attacking Iran and it rapidly escalates to a closure of the Persian Gulf and Iran attacking the American military bases and the other countries? Yep. I think that's what we will see, leading to the destruction of Iran and Iraq. Iraq will join in. We had another announcement. The Taliban think Afghanistan, the neighbor to Iran on the right or the east, they said if Iran asks us to, we'll feel sorry for them and out of sympathy help them. Now, the British tried to run Afghanistan and they left. The Taliban ran them out. And the Americans tried it and the Taliban ran them out. This is a case of another bunch of dedicated fighters that believe in jihad and martyrdom and the 70 virgins and all that, right? So they'll help Iran, just what America needs, right? I'm not that sure I understand how effective they'll be. But they said they'll help. I would much rather have seen them attack Iran, but no. Looks like they're going the other direction. They might make trouble for Azerbaijan, for instance, who wants to go after Iran. I don't know. I don't know yet. That's a new development that might come to pass, and it may not. Iran may never ask them. They don't get on too well. The only way Iran's going to make a deal with America is going to be if it's a stupid deal for America, number one. And number two, it's of no interest of Iran has no interest in doing anything unless the sanctions get relieved. That's all they care about. They got a one-track mind. And if the sanctions don't get lifted, they're most likely not taking any deal. Because they're getting beaten down by the sanctions. So there's a problem. And I don't think it's surmountable. And I think because we're in recompenses now, okay, and we were last year in June too, and Iran didn't do too well. And we're in recompenses, which is payback to the nations over what they're doing with Israel. It's Isaiah 34, verse 8. And I could read that, of course. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance. That's not yet, but it does come in the spirit of recompenses. And then it reads, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion, which is Israel. Now, the year of recompenses, the word year is mistranslated. It really means a prophetic period of time, and we don't have it has no specific length given associated with it. So we don't know how long it really is. It's just it doesn't have a definite time period associated with it. It is what it is, basically. Or it's as long as it happens to be, basically. That's how it goes. The controversy over Zion, so they get paid back for this. So I don't think it's going well for Iran, let's put it that way, nor America. Now, we got Netanyahu coming out again with more of his asinine policies to hurt the poor and regular Israelis that are not, his espots and whatever. At least 1.25 million, maybe much more than that, in Israel are having food insecurity, us included. And Netanyahu wants to build another airport in the south for 7 billion shekels, which is not quite $2 billion. And then he's talking about another additional airport up near Tel Aviv. And what will these airports do to further the life of the poor people in Israel? Nothing. It won't do a darn thing. Will it increase tourism? It likely will. Could they divert air traffic in times of war and attack? That's not going to help much, no. If they can close one airport, they can close all of them. That's not going to be meaningful. In the winter months, will it help out with people coming to Israel as tourists from Northern Europe and Europe in general? Yeah. Generally, those people stay in the south. So he already built an Eilat airport, an international airport for those people. Now he wants to build more. Now, what should Shmuckenyahu really do? He should go to work on the food, the cost of housing, and he should be working on the hospitals. The airports will help the hotel owners. How many of you own a hotel? Okay. Will they help the Airbnb people? They will, and a lot of people do have Airbnbs, so that will happen. Will it help your car rental company? How many of you have a car rental company with 300-400 cars? Oh, gee, nobody. Oh, okay, that's a Satanbot business, just like owning a hotel. Oh, what about restaurants? Well, some of you might own a restaurant or something, so that could help there. Would it give you a job? Yeah, you could get a job at the airport, cleaning, selling tickets, cleaning airplanes, pumping aviation fuel, working in a gift shop. Yeah, sure. Great job, Uh, so it's really to help the Satan bots. It helps their business get product in and product out. The product could get in closer to the marketplace and out. So the people in the South that own big pieces of land that grow agricultural products could get the stuff on planes easier without having to truck it far away. So it's really to help the businesses, not the people. Netanyahu doesn't care about the people, neither does Trump. And you're deceiving yourself if you don't get that. So does he ever come out and talk about ending the food insecurity for the people in Israel? Never, ever do I hear it. See, he's such a living, breathing piece of garbage, and the people still vote him in office. It's unbelievable. This is the worst leader ever for Israel over many thousands of years, and they still like him. Such a piece of garbage, unbelievable. Obama came out and said that aliens are real, but he's never seen one. And he said they're not holding any at Area 51. He says if they were, that would be the largest conspiracy theory he ever heard of, withholding information from the president. So, I don't believe there's anything about aliens in the Bible, but at all, I don't believe in them. But it's curious that that idiot Obama would say that. He said there's no underground facility there in Area 51 for the demons and for aliens. And he said if there is, it would be an enormous conspiracy theory, and they hid it from the president of the United States. They could do something like that, but I don't think they'd want to care about it. They wouldn't do it. He's just lying. He doesn't. He's telling the truth when he said he never saw an alien, but he's he I don't believes in him. Okay. This is the feedback that Trump got from Jared Kushner, his nepotism appointment, and Witkoff. They told Trump the following, that it's difficult to nearly impossible to reach an agreement with Iran on the nuclear issue, just the nuclear issue. So what you got going on here is they don't want to go back to the Trump and watch him scream and yell and throw things at him. So they don't say, oh, this is impossible. Then Trump gets rid of them because you can't have. Screaming, you can't. What do you mean it's impossible? What do you mean it's almost impossible? You get out there and make a deal, or I'll get somebody else who can. That's all they're going to get. So they right, they feed Trump what he wants to get fed, but it's not working. Okay. So Iran's version of this is saying potential energy, mining, and aircraft deals are on the table in talks with America. Rubio, Secretary of State, said Trump had made it clear that he would prefer diplomacy and negotiation settlement. See, they'll say they can make a deal with you. They want a deal, and you talk about aircraft. They'll sit down and say they want F-22s, they want F-35s, stuff like that. Trump never gonna. The deal doesn't look makeable. Okay. All right. This is more treacherous from Trump. Indonesia says 8,000 troops are ready for possible peacekeeping mission in Gaza by June. Wow, that's pretty far off. Peacekeeping forces are a critical element of Trump's reconstruction for Gaza, which he refuses to start unless Hamas disarms. And Trump doesn't understand that Hamas will sit there for 15 years and not disarm. Trump's not real savvy about the people. Trump then says that members of his newly created Board of Peace have pledged $5 billion towards Gaza reconstruction. That's probably not even 10%. It's about probably 5% of what they'll need, maybe 1% even. Pledges, and this is just towards the reconstruction. And they're ready, these people, these countries are ready to commit thousands of persons to maintain security and peace in the territory. Trump plans to host the board, their inaugural I don't know what you call it, inaugural meeting. So Indonesia has 8,000 ready to create security in Gaza. Isn't that great? The inaugural meeting is on Friday this week. So the Indonesia 8,000 military are Muslims. So let's say it came out like this. Trump's appointing 8,000 Jewish soldiers from countries around the world, like the UK, Germany, America, Canada, and they will conduct the enforcement of peace in Gaza. Well, the people will go nuts. You can't do that. They're biased against us. Well, gee, do you think the Muslims in Indonesia are not biased against the Jews in Israel? Trump in action. In the Bronx in New York, kids used to play a game called Kick the Can. You get in a street, in a gutter. Now, this is going back to the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s, where there weren't that many cars. Believe it or not, around 1954, 55, in New York, in the Bronx, you would see a car parked in the street. And then you might see 50 feet with no car, then another 2 or 3 cars, and then no car. There was few cars, and cars wouldn't keep moving down the side streets. They would rarely would you see a car down the side street. There weren't that many people driving and with cars after World War II. Okay. Now, as you progressed, I think the first of the new cars after the war were in 48, really. Now, they technically could have had some in 46, 47, but I don't know why. People didn't have a 46 and a 47 model. They started with the 48s. My father had one. He had a 1948 Studebaker. When I was a kid, you saw a lot of cars that were 48s and 49s, you know. The older cars with the running boards were gone, okay? Running boards where you could stand on the side and hold on. Very dangerous. I think the cops would have a heart attack if they saw anybody standing on a running board, going down the road. They go nuts. Standing up in a convertible is pretty bad. We used to do that as kids, teenagers, because if something happens, you stop short or, you can get thrown about. In addition, it's not safe, in my book, to ride in a convertible without some sort of protective glasses. I wouldn't do it. It's not worth it. You can get a big bug and damage an eye. You can get a pebble getting flung at high speed and wreck your eye or something. I wouldn't do it. The windshield mitigates any damage to a great extent. Now, with a sunroof, I wouldn't be very worried about it, But with that, I would. Now, if you put the side windows up and you just have the top down, you have a very good chance of not getting. But the best thing is wear sunglasses, or if it's nighttime, just wear glasses, and you're much, much better off. Today, you can buy sunglasses that have for motorcycles and stuff, and they have a color changing effect in there, and when it gets dark. So motorcycle guy gets on his bike at 3 o'clock and takes a trip, and the sun goes down at 6:30 and it's dark. So they buy sunglasses that change color to clear. You got to be a little bit on the stupid side to ride a motorcycle without some high impact glasses protecting your eyes and wrap around. So there's no space where anything gets in. You got to be stupid not to do it, because the threat of a bug, a good sized bug at 50 miles an hour hitting your eye can be devastating. It's not fun. Bad stuff could happen. So you should have them. Where you're better off really is you put the helmet on, and the helmet has a very highly resistant shield that goes on. And if stuff hits that shield, probably nothing's going to happen. The problem is you start riding in the afternoon and the shield is a heavy tint, and then it gets the evening and now you got that thing on, diminishing your vision. So you really need to have a different kind of a shield. You got to be able to take that sunglass shield off and put on a clear shield or a light tint or something, Okay. So anyway, there's a new round. Now we're on the second day of new anti-government chanting in Iran. And one of the things they're very fond of including in their chant is kill Khomeini. Not get rid of Khomeini, kill Khomeini. Now, in Israel, we talk about getting rid of Netanyahu, which is a vote of no confidence. We don't say kill Netanyahu. We go for a vote of no confidence. But this Khomeini is such a piece of trash, they want him dead. This guy, Pavlavel, or whatever his name is, the son of the Shah, there's media saying he's the official opposition guy. No, he's the official nothing. He's the most likely to get it. And he's obviously the one Trump wants, although Trump won't come out and say it. But the guy has no experience running the country. He was a kid under the Shah. When did the Shah get kicked out? In 79, let's say 80. So you got 46 years ago, you know? So looking at it, when the Shah got kicked, he was probably 16, 18, you know, so he's in his 60s. He never ran the country. The Shah wouldn't have trained him to run the country probably till he was maybe 25 years old, which would make him, let's see, 66. He doesn't look that old. I don't know. I don't think he had any training. He probably picked up commentaries from his father. His father probably talked about things, but yeah. So the chanting out of the windows went on in several cities last night or the night before. Two nights, actually. So they don't want to go out in the street and do it because then the IRGC cracks their heads open, shoots them, puts them in the dungeon prison, and they never get out, and things like that. So a lot of them live in apartment buildings, and they open the window, and they probably don't hang their head out. They probably stay inside and chant, and they all do it simultaneously. And that probably is enough to get the streets ringing with the kill Khomeini. And that is not making Khomeini feel good and warm and mushy inside, you know. Trump talking on the weapons in Gaza. This is pretty good. The weapons that they used to murder our people with on October 7th were rifles, AK-47s. There are 60,000 rifles in Gaza. That's probably very accurate. Maybe there was more at the beginning, but okay, let's go with the 60,000. They need to get those out of Gaza, get the people of Gaza. So the reason they want to get rid of the rifles is the Hamas will start killing the workers there. They'll say, give us 25% of the money you're getting paid to work here. We're the honest government. If you don't give it to us, we won't let you work here. We'll kill you. Also, they can use it to kill tourists. That's why Trump doesn't want it. Kidnap tourists, kill tourists, take them hostages, rape them every day for the rest of their short life, you know. They're also, there's 500 kilometers of tunnels in the Strip, which is about 300 miles, which is insane. That's like the New York City subway system or something, you know. And they got rid of about 150 kilometers. So they got rid of about a third of it. They got to get the other 2/3 to get rid of it. And that's very important. And it shows you how bad of a job Netanyahu has done. since October 7th, 2023, to only get rid of a third of them. You understand? And when people say he was dragging out the war, I believe it. Look at the evidence. So India, Modi in India has, now I like the people in India, okay? And I know some, and there's a ton of, I personally believe, and a lot of other people do, there's a ton of Israelis in India that, lost tribe types, right? Tons, okay? People have gone into millions and millions and millions of them. They're huge numbers. We don't know. So anyway, Modi approved a sale of $8.6 to $8.7 billion US, not shekels. That's a good piece of change. It's more than I make in a week. In arms purchases from Israel, making Israel one of its top defense suppliers, second after France. So France won't like this, but we don't care. All right, so let me go through the sale, and then I'll show you what could be wrong with this. But I'm not sure this is going to happen this time, but I'll go through it with you. This is what Israel sold to them. Spice 1,000 guided bombs, about 1,000 of them. This is either the whole bomb or a kit you put on a bomb that makes the bomb guided to precision, like it gets within a yard or something like that, or a meter or something like that. So they sold those to India. All right. The rest of the weapons are pretty much different. Let me go through it with you. They sold what we call the Rampage air-to-surface missiles, air-launched ballistic missiles, the Icebreaker missile system. I'm going to go through the Icebreaker with you, just as a for instance, so you know how these things work. But the emphasis that Israel has put on its weaponization systems or its weapons runs like this. Israel doesn't like surface-to-surface missiles. Why? They get taken down a lot, and they're expensive, and they're vulnerable. What Israel opted to do instead is mount a lot of different highly capable missiles on aircraft with a range of about 300 kilometers, 180 miles. So they're normally maybe just getting into the outer range of the radar of the enemy. Okay, now if they're doing it with a stealth plane, at that distance, the enemy's not going to pick them up. And then they can fire their air from airplane. Air to surface is airplane to hit the ground. So instead of firing missiles and trying to hit the target inside the country and having all the complications of putting in the electronics in there, to stop the enemy's radar and tracking missiles and stuff like that, they set it up like this. And what are the advantages of setting this up like this? Well, the missile is fired, okay, at 180 miles or less from the target. So that means when you do a war, you progress inland, you clear the radar out. And the more radar you clear out and the more anti-aircraft systems you clear out, which they need radar to work, is your path opens up wider, and you can go deeper into the country and attack more targets. Okay? That makes sense, right? All right. So the planes are out of range pretty much of the country. If they're 300 kilometers, they're not going to probably fire on them. First of all, they didn't even get into the airspace or the water space of the country. But the Israeli plane can attack the country, the borders. Now, let's say you want to attack Tehran. And Tehran's got more good missile defense systems. I don't think they have any good ones, but let's just say that. Then you wouldn't attack from flying overhead from Iran. You'd fly maybe 100, 120 miles away and attack Iran from a great distance. Then you turn around and you fly out of there. So the plane is very much not under serious risk. It never got within the real range of their systems to take the plane down. Maybe it gets picked up on radar briefly and slightly, but as soon as the Israeli plane gets the coordinates, the targeting done, which is probably maybe done before they get that close even, and they fire, and then out of there he goes. Let's discuss the icebreaker missile, which is an anti-aircraft system missile. It's not really a surface to surface or anything like that. So we'll just choose that to give you an idea how Israel works with their systems. It's a more effective system than building surface to surface missiles, or we would be building surface to surface missiles. Okay. The icebreaker was developed by the Israeli company Rafael Advanced Defense Systems. It's a 5th generation precision strike missile. 5th generation. It's designed to hit air-launched fighter jets. So it fires from a jet up in the air. It can be launched from the ground, and it can be launched from a boat at sea. It's basically a smart, stealthy cruise type missile. So it's a cruise missile with countermeasures and the ability to correct its course and change course and so forth. A cruise missile is a slow 550 mile per hour missile, okay? And it's meant to hit high value targets. And it works at long distance to keep the aircraft safe. It's got an estimated range that's an estimate of about 300 kilometers, 180 miles. It allows the aircraft that will launch it to strike without entering the enemy air defense zone. And that's very important. The guidance system for this missile, the icebreaker, is an advanced GPS. Plus, if GPS is jammed, it has terrain matching and imaging infrared seeker. So this is something we're rather fortunate Iran doesn't have, as far as I know. So this is a very, very sophisticated missile. Let's keep going. It's AI, artificial intelligence assisted target recognition. So whatever its camera picks up, the AI is analyzing it to make sure it's going on the right path. What this can hit is predominantly air defense systems. So they're anti-aircraft systems, right? And it can hit as well command centers. So you could send it into, one of those tower buildings where you've got the guys with the computers and the headphones sitting there and blow them up. It can hit ships, which is ships, boats, right? And it could hit hardened targets. Now, we'll get into that a little bit more. It has a low radar signature by itself, okay? So making, picking it up on radar and, tuning it in for a missile launch isn't the smartest idea. It can hit, when you're talking about penetrating modern air defense systems, it specifically is effective against the Russian S-300 and the S-400 anti-aircraft systems, which is what our friends in Iran have, as well as other countries. For a warhead, it can have a precision penetrator, so it's going to have a hard steel case and get through heavy concrete or something or steel, and then it's going to detonate and explode. It's not going to explode till it penetrates the barrier. Optimized for hardened military targets. So this is a very valuable thing. So why did India buy this? India is modernizing its strike capabilities against China. So it's specifically effective against China, which is important, and Pakistan, which isn't all that important, and naval threats like those in the Indian Ocean belonging to Iran. Okay. And it could also be useful in the Indian Ocean for India. The icebreaker gives India a long-range standoff strike ability. Remember, you can fire these things from planes outside the legal territory by far of the country without infringing on their airspace. It can hit heavily defended targets, and it has integration with Air Force, so it doesn't lead. So it gives India long-range standoff strike ability. It could hit heavily defended and hardened targets. It integrates with aircraft like the ones they have, like the Fu-30 MK, and it'll have, potential for future integration into other aircraft. This is just one of the missile systems we're giving them. Um, So now India can use this for a stealthy, remember, this is stealthy, very, very hard to take down. Precision strike missile for modern warfare, able to destroy high value targets from far away while avoiding interception. It's not going to help us in Iran because they put their missiles in missile cities and they move them around on mobile missile launches, so we're never quite sure where they are. Um, the other advantages of this missile system, the icebreaker, is, aside from the low radar signature, it sea skims, okay? So it flies at a very low, maybe 50 feet or 60 feet over the water or over the land. So the radar is not usually tuned to go that low. If you have Navy radar, yeah, but Navy radar usually doesn't go out very far. So we're turning India around, and who has India got a problem with? Pakistan. And who is friends with Pakistan? China. So is Israel's popularity with China going down the drain? You bet. Iran's very, very, very buddy-buddy with China. They have mutual defense treaty, and Israel's about to go in and blow Iran up any day now. Now, you got to remember what Trump told Netanyahu was, you're going to attack their ballistic missile program. Trump doesn't want that oil attacked. That doesn't mean Netanyahu's going to listen. Now, what is Israel going to get from India? Well, a number of things. What are they going to get? Well, they're going to get blue food. Do you know what blue food is? I didn't until today. Fish. The ocean blue fish, right? Okay. They grow these in ponds in India. And you see, anything you get from India, the labor is going to be like 1/10 of what it is, or 1/4 or 1/8 or something of what it is in going to be in Israel. Okay, Israel, the labor is not cheap. They have to give the employee vacation pay. They got to pay the medical for the employee and his family. That's not so cheap. And they got to do the pension, and it's not just that you buy the medical, you got to buy the pension plan from the government, all this other stuff. When you pay for the medical, you're not just paying for the medical, you're also paying for your pension. Okay, we'll talk about that another time, but it's expensive. And the taxes are 50%. The guy's, if he's making any money, he's losing 50% in taxes. And then he's got to worry about an 18% sales tax in Israel. So he loses half of his salary, and now he's got 18% of the 50% that's left. 18% goes every time he buys something. And there's a $3 a gallon tax on gasoline. Just the tax, $3 a gallon. It's an incredibly stupid country to live in. And then you got a living, breathing abomination like Netanyahu sitting there and wants to build airports and buy more fighter jets and crap like that, right? And the people can't. They're afraid of running out of money to buy food. When we got to pay rent and we got to pay water bills, they're excessive. Water bills are high here. You got to buy the tax. You got to pay the property tax on the house, even though you're a renter. Could you imagine in America, they tell you got to pay the landlord's property tax? That's what you got. Lousy governments in Israel that do this. They favor the rich. The people here are not awake. I don't like to talk like that about them, but it's the truth. And then you start with the food prices. Now, Smotrich told us, that's the economic minister, that when the war started back in October 7, 2023 to the end to December 2025, the food prices went up 20%. For no reason, and they blamed it on the war, and they investigated. It was no reason. Did they do anything to bring the food prices down? No. Netanyahu never does anything like that. I'm going to make food affordable for the Israelis. That abomination never does that. I'm going to reduce housing prices. That abomination doesn't do that either. Why do the people keep re-electing him? I don't understand. It's like they went to a movie. They're in a movie or something in a trance. Why would they do this? And, at the same time, there's at least 1 million, 1.5 million, maybe 2 million that desperately want to get rid of this piece of abomination. They want to get rid of him bad, but they can't. I don't understand it. I can't figure this out. How could the people be so dumb? Or so confused or so blind? It's amazing to me. He's so bad. So then he turns around and he tells them, I'm going to build some airports. And the poor people don't know any better. And they sit there and think, the airports is going to be good. It's not going to do beans for the average Israeli. It's not going to do anything for them. Nothing. He should take that, and every time he has a chance, he should be building housing for people that's affordable. He'd do that over his own dead body before he helped the poor people in Israel, the non-Satan bots. He'd die, I think. I think he would give his life before he helped the poor. That's what I think of him. My opinion's such a piece of garbage. And it goes on. Kids go to school. There's no school lunch program that I know of in Israel in the public schools. Kids go to school and they don't have lunch. With no money. The price of food is outrageous. We used to get chicken wings cheap. They doubled in price, I think, maybe more than doubled. When they tell you the food went up 20%, I think it's probably 30, 35%. Okay? That's what I think. And I'll tell you the sickness of this abomination, Prime Minister. He has given in recent years an exclusivity to the ultra-Orthodox, his buddies, to be the only ones in Israel that can declare food kosher. Now, if there was competition between the ultra-religious, basically the conservative rabbis and the reform rabbis, and the regular, not ultra-Orthodox, just Orthodox rabbis who are able to declare food producers, food sellers, restaurants kosher, there would be competition. But what this abomination did is he made it the law that if you declare food kosher and you're not an ultra-Orthodox rabbi working for the government rabbinate office, you go to jail for that. It's a crime. So he's backing up monopolization with a crime. Do you understand this is back to the railroad barons and price fixing in the 1800s? This is archaic, ancient Satan bot techniques. And it's working in Israel. The food sellers are the worst. We had to stop buying food from this bum here. He's the only one. No, I think we found another one. But he's the only one that really delivers food in this region. When you order fruit and vegetables, they give you the worst fruit and vegetables. The worst. And the meat too. Why? Because you don't get to see the food. In the store, nobody's going to pick that fruit, vegetables, or meat. So he gives it to the delivery people. He figures the delivery people have a reason they're buying from delivery from him. They have to because of their work schedule or whatever, right? What a piece of garbage. That's what life in Israel is like with these rotten, stinking leaders we've had since 1948. This is what we get, okay? And they teach the people of Israel is to say, oh, it's tough living here. It's only tough living here because you got rotten leadership. That's the only reason. There's no other reason under the sun for this. Nothing. And now they're reversing Aliyah. Not only do they don't want to support Aliyah, not only do they want to make it very hard for poor people or anybody to come to Israel, other than the ultra-Orthodox endorsed people. I mean, Netanyahu has turned this place into a junk hole. It's not really a junk hole, but he's made life very, very, very miserable here, and the people keep voting for him. They don't see this. Americans would see it so obviously, not all of them, but many of them, and they don't see it here. Who would see it in America? Anybody that's a patriot, gun people, survivalists, preppers, they all see it. Military people would even see it. And this idiot gets away with it. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's so sad. It really is. It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. But it's reality. Do you see homeless people in Israel? No, they draw the line there. You don't really see homeless people. There are homeless people that don't look homeless, but they're there. They're not many, okay? But you don't see them with the tents and all that. They find ways to get them off the street. They don't put them in jail. They hit them with clubs like America did in the Depression. The people were living in Central Park, and they sent General Patton in, who was, I don't know, a lieutenant or a captain or something back then. And he went in leading the soldiers, and they took clubs and they beat the people to get them out of Central Park. That's America, by the way. Yeah, that's America, by the way. And how many millions of people do you got living in tents? And you got this moron Trump throwing money into Gaza, except he won't help the poor people in America either. See, Netanyahu and Trump are both abominations. Some of you know what I mean, some of you don't. They're both abominations. What I'm afraid of he'll do with India is what he did in the past. He'll send some missiles to, or whatever products to Modi, and Modi will take them and test them, and they'll reverse engineer them and then cancel the order. And then you'll say, oh, okay. So does that have a possibility for one abomination in India to put money under the table to the other abomination in Israel to just let him cancel the order after they reverse engineer, and then he makes it for himself? And Israel doesn't benefit at all. Do I think that happened in the past? I think it's a possibility. And do I think it may happen again this time? I sure do. And a lot of people kept their mouths shut about it if it's what I think happened. Now, maybe Modi just took advantage of Israel and got away with it. And that's what they say, first time, shame on you. Second time, shame on me. So if it happens again, then I would say there's a 99.9% chance Netanyahu did some corruption here. He's an abomination. This is always what he'll do. His first choice is to lie, steal, cheat, take advantage. That's like his father, Satan. That's what he's like. Why does he get along with Trump? Because birds of a feather flock together. But look what he does. He tells Trump needs a war on Iran. Hey, you go do it now. Okay, Donald, I'll do it. The ultra-Orthodox know what this abomination's up to, so they don't want their kids going in the military. But Netanyahu is not strong enough politically to keep those kids out of the military. He's not getting that law passed, and we don't know what will happen. Israel could break out in revolt. There are enough people that understand what he's doing with the draft, how wrong that is. They don't understand, and a lot of people are really mad about him with the rabbi and the kosher stuff. But I think when you add the rabbis in, you get about 15, 20% probably in there onto the food prices, okay? Then you get the 20% they put on since 2000. Well, the religious add-on was there too. The 20% is, in my book, is the food. A lot of the food we see is way the heck more than 20% up. I don't know, maybe pasta's only 20% up, or stuff like that, or bread or something. I don't know. But we see the meat is, well, you know what? Let me think. Maybe the meat is, it's settled down a little. Maybe the meat's not that high anymore. No, it's more. It's probably 30, 40, maybe 50%. No, I can't buy 20%. I don't know what they put in there to come up with the 20% figure. Peppermint jelly, raspberry, pineapple, banana ice cream, or, obscure things. I don't know where they got it from. No, I'd say 50% minimum to 150%. Stuff's very expensive, And they don't care. Netanyahu doesn't care. Leave Israel. Leave. Go someplace. Get out of here. He doesn't care. Or starve. Stay here and starve. I don't care. Old people really suffer. If you're over 50 and you try to get a job in Israel, in America, they'll hire you over 50. They won't do it in Israel. Monopolies are allowed in Israel. You can have a monopoly. They don't say anything about it. You could do price fixing. I don't see anybody doing anything about it. I don't think there's any laws against it. No Robinson-Patman Act or any of those antitrust laws, nothing. When you see these sales of startups and stuff, that's nice. Where does that money go? It goes to the rich Satan bots at the top of the food chain in the company that was sold. And 23% of the money, the profit, goes to Israel, the government, in form of taxes. And the workers had jobs, and they may still have a job with the new owner, but that's it. They don't get any real benefit. They just get the chance to work. That's it. Do you know how wealthy you have to have a nice house in Israel? You could go to Florida and you could buy yourself probably for $500,000 a 5-bedroom, 2-floor house with a 2-car garage on perhaps an acre, with a swimming pool, with an outside jacuzzi, with inside jacuzzis, with an island cooking, with skylights, with beautiful modern bathrooms, with a kitchen grill outside by the pool even. Probably for $500,000 you could get something like that in a gated community in a nice place. All right, what would a house like that cost in Israel not in the middle of nowhere, in one of the nicer communities? It costs 4 or 5 times more. Whatever it costs in America would be, I would say, 4 to 5 times more in price. Do you get to own the land in Israel? No. You get the use of the land for 50 years when you buy the house. At the end of 50 years, you got to talk to the government, and the government has the right to tell you to make changes to the house, to the land or the house, or whatever they want to tell you to do, and they'll renew it for another 50 years. Can they fight with you and not renew it, and you just got to leave the house? It goes to the government? Yeah. Is that often what happens? It could. Would Netanyahu do it? He'd love to do that to people. As long as you're not a Satan bot, he'd do it to you. But he can't. I don't think they'd put up with that. It's a lot of things they can't put up with in Israel. Okay. So if the trade deal is real with Modi, which it might be, Modi has things he could sell Israel. Like he could sell Israel drones. Now, for junk drones, it might be cheaper for Israel to buy them from India than to try to make them in Israel. They might actually be half the price. So not for the real sophisticated drones, they're just the run-of-the-mill, suicide drones and stuff like that. They might buy some of that stuff, or surveillance drones. They might buy some of that from India. India is not going to probably sell missiles to Israel, but they could sell missile components like fuel systems, motors, stuff like that. Israel makes a lot of automotive parts. India makes a lot of automotive parts, second market, stuff. So that could open up a door because they would have cheap parts for cars in Israel, like Toyota, Datsun, Lexus, Fiat, and things like that. They could buy replacement parts from India that are going to work, and they're going to be way the heck less than buying from Fiat or Datsun or Toyota. Okay, that could work out. They might go to a tax-free situation. Fish from ponds, would that work out here? Yeah, they flash freeze it. Why? Because I'm pretty sure India could deliver it cheap. But again, Israel makes their own fish and ponds here, so that may or may not work out so well. Vegetables and fruits, that could work out. You got to put that in a refrigerator container and bring it in a ship. But that could work out. It really could. I don't know the prices, but it could work out. Or it may not, because we do a lot of our own fruit. I don't know. We got to see. Spices, that would be a really good thing. India got spices, like really got spices, all kinds of spices. Israelis like spices, so they're not going to be able to promote 75 different spices in Israel and get it popular, but they might be able to push 20, 25 different spices that get popular in Israel all of a sudden. I think I welcome that. Grains, wheat, and products made from wheat. Yeah, that might. There's a tremendous amount of things that can go. Indian people eat a lot of rice. Well, we make our own rice here, so where are we going to buy that rice for? Where it's going to cost more. So there's going to be trade. Okay, probably not tremendous in the food. Probably more so in clothing. Israel doesn't make a lot of clothing. Okay, so clothing India could bang out real cheap. That could work. Jewelry, but who's buying jewelry today? It's so expensive with the price of gold. Forget jewelry. What about electronics? Yes, electronics. Yes, yes. Tourism. I don't know. There already is tourism, but I mean, do people from India, can we encourage that and get more? I don't know. I don't think it's going to light up too much myself. Will Israelis go to India? If it's cheap, you bet. If they can get a cheap vacation, then they'll go. But remember, you got a lot of Muslims running around in India that are not so nice. Do the Hindu people, which is Modi's party, the Hindu, do they like the Israelis? Yeah, they do. We both got rid of the British. Gandhi got rid of the British, and we got rid of the British when they pulled out, in what was it, 48. So yeah, we got that in common. No, they like the Hindu people and the Jews can get along quite well, very well. And there's Christians in India. There's not tons of them, but of course they would be very open to the Israelis. I don't think they got a heavy Catholic thing going on over there. I don't know. Maybe they do, but they make shirts and slacks and dresses and coats. They can make that stuff very, very inexpensively, and there would be a big market for that here. So a lot of let me tell you what I think's going on. A lot of the stuff we were buying from China may transfer to India because we're turning against China, and then we'll turn towards India. So, like, I don't know yet, but I mean, refrigerators, vacuum cleaners, fans, air conditioners, an oven, a microwave. A lot of this stuff comes from China in Israel, right? And I think a lot of that could be bought from India, but I don't know the quality yet. The Israeli merchants are careful about that. They don't want to sell you crap. They want to sell you stuff like that you're going to get 10 years or more out of. Why? Because you're going to come back to them. If you buy something that drops dead, an appliance that drops dead in 2 years, you're not going to go back to them. Now, a lot of the fans they sell in Israel used to drop dead in a year or two. Now they're working year after year after year after year. So I think they learned not to buy the garbage by the hard way. You don't want to go back to a store that sells you something that drops dead in a year. I've seen shirts come out of India that are so thin, you hold them up, you could see light. I mean, you wonder where the material is. I don't know if they'll sell that kind of stuff over here. I don't know. The Israelis will buy it. It'll be cool when the weather's hot and cheap. they brainwashed the Israelis to want to just buy cheap, cheap, cheap. See, that's usually cheap, cheap, cheap is the way they take advantage of the poor, because the poor don't ever have any money and they got to buy cheap, cheap, cheap. But if you've got money and you buy a good oven or a good refrigerator, it outlasts the cheap, cheap, cheap. And that's the thing. Furniture, India might be good at. I'd really like to see India get into tax-free trade deal with Israel, which is a possibility. Netanyahu would do that. So we got to watch this one. I don't know how good or how bad it'll be. We'll find out. It looks real. There's a lot of items that they want from us. I'm going to take a break, and then we're going to go through Trump. Will he confiscate the gold? And I'll make my case, and you can decide. All right. I've been pretty spot on predicting things like Trump's going to want Israel to attack Iran by itself. Iran may close the Persian Gulf. If it does that, America will be in the war. And all the indications are that they will do that. Why won't they? It's in their best interest. Okay. So, back with Elon Musk and Trump, right after he's elected and takes office, they're auditing the Fort Knox. Nobody ever got told what they found in Fort Knox. Nobody. Trump makes believe it never happened. What I told you Trump would do is he would get rid of the Federal Reserve Bank without getting rid of them. Creates a digital currency which is not going to be anonymous, but it'll be backed by gold. The countries of the world don't back themselves with silver. They just use gold. They don't use platinum or rhodium or just gold. So I said, I think Trump's letting the price of gold go up without fighting it and driving it down like they have been historically, because that brings up the value of his gold too. He obviously has some gold, or United States, I mean. So how does this work? Well, Trump needs gold to go up a lot and then use it to back a digital currency like a Bitcoin. And then he just moves everything away from using the old Federal Reserve System. And everything works in Bitcoin. The government works on the new Bitcoin, the digital currency. They pay employees with it. They pay the military with it. They buy goods with it. They do Social Security and disability with it. Everything, right? So they don't have to go to the Federal Reserve and get them to manufacture money, which they print as a courtesy to them, and pay interest on it. Because they're not going to do 100% gold backing. They're going to do a floating thing. Will they tell you you could redeem in gold? I don't think so. So for every $1 million worth of gold, they might put out, $12 million of digital money, something like that. Okay. If you run the gold up to $35,000, $40,000, you can get away with that. Now, let's get into it. President Franklin Roosevelt was the one that confiscated gold or caused it to be surrendered. What he went after were three things. One of those three things was gold coins. The next thing he went after was gold bullion bars, or any kind of gold that it could be a round or a bar or something that wasn't a coin. And the other thing they went after was gold certificates. The money back then at the top didn't say Federal Reserve note. It didn't say silver certificate. That came after. It said gold certificate, and you could redeem it at any Federal Reserve bank for its value in gold. So when you put gold reserve notes in the bank during a 2-year period of time when they were adjusting this, or maybe it was really 1 year, the bank would turn the gold reserve notes to the gold notes to the government and replace them with another note that didn't say redeem in gold. Okay, so what they exempted was small personal amounts. So if you had a coin or two, they didn't care. And if you had jewelry, and also if you had like you had a Hanukkah menorah made out of gold, or you had that would be, if you weren't wearing it, it was a decoration. They usually let that stuff go. People were paid back then $20.67 an ounce, which was the official gold price at that time, which I believe was in 1933. So they got, when they went to a bank and they turned over their gold, they got $20.67 an ounce. Now, what would happen in America is probably half the gold being turned in would be counterfeit. So they would screen the gold. So in 1934, after most of the gold was collected, the rotten government revalued gold to $35 an ounce. So listen to this. They collected the gold at $20.67 an ounce, which was pretty much the worldwide price for it at the time. Then they revalued the gold after they finished collecting it at $35. They almost doubled their money. In a year, the government almost doubled their money. This was officially done by the Gold Reserve Act of 1934. Now, the confiscation of the gold, forcing you to sell the gold to the government, was done by executive order. No Congress, done by executive order. This caused the devaluation of the dollar because it was no longer gold backed. It devalued the dollar by 69%. Other countries that did this since 1900, that's just a figure I use. It was done by India, by the UK, by China, by France, by Germany, and Australia. The only ones that are not real serious allies of America here is China and maybe India. The others, France, Germany, Australia, the UK are, spot on strong allies of America. Can Trump try to do this in America? Yes. Does he need Congress? Well, apparently not. He can do it with an executive order. Will this cause extreme blow up in the United States? Oh, you have no idea. Will it cause the gun people, the preppers, the survivalists, the patriots, even a lot of the veterans to decide that they've had enough of this government in America and rise up against them? You bet it will. That won't be containable because they protect themselves from America in two ways, really. One way is with firearms and prepper supplies, and the other way is with gold and silver. And they will see that being taken away from them. See, you can go bury it in the backyard, and they're not going to go door to door and get you. And do I think they're going to go to gold companies and go through their records and find large purchasers and investigate them? Like Trump will create a federal authority of gold standard or gold investigation or something that'll go investigate you. Yeah, he will. He'll make them badges made out of a gold $20 piece or something, you know. You know, he'll do that. And they might come around and investigate, but they're probably going to be looking at people that have, you know, 100. Well, it'd be easy to have $100,000, probably large amounts of gold. You know, people that have maybe 100 ounces, stuff like that. They can't chase people that have 10 or 20 or 30 coins. It's too much money. They can't do that. But they could, you know, 100 coins, 100 ounces. That's a lot of money. That's like a fortune. So they go chase that, you know. But here's the problem. You put it in the yard and you can't use the gold. You could take it and melt it down and make a ring or something like that. But you can't use the gold. You can't buy and sell. It'd be a crime. Anybody that buys and sells gold is going to get 5 or 10 years in jail and $1 million fine. You know? It's over. So they'll still hold it, and they'll figure they got to get rid of the government. They won't turn it in. To them, this, and you'll learn as this happens, this will be to them like confiscation of all guns. Only the police and military have guns, guys. All the guns are contraband. Out of my cold dead hands is the motto from the NRA, I think. There was Charleston Heston. You remember him, Moses in the movies? He was the head of NRA for a while, and before he died, I think he was living in Beverly Hills or somewhere around LA, and it was good for the NRA, and he was using the same thing. Take my guns out of my cold dead hands. Well, they'd be happy to kill you to take your guns. They're not that worried about that at all. But the average federal agent in the United States doesn't have much respect for a person. That's, you know, if the person doesn't have a badge or isn't owner of a multi-billion-dollar company or a member of the elite or something, as long as that person is respectful and follows all the laws, they leave them alone. But that's the word, leave them alone. They're not respectful. They said, well, the deal is they follow the laws. They obey the laws. We leave them alone. That's the deal. That's what we do. There's no respect for them. And when they deviate and stop breaking the law, whatever the law is, they're not going to say, gee, we made a mistake working for this federal government. We're working for Satan bots and we can't do that. You know, they're not going to say that. They say, well, they want to, you know, break this thing with the gold and silver, you know. But if the government says, well, you got to confiscate all the gold, all the guns, well, maybe 10% or 5% of them would quit or say this is wrong. Probably more like 2%, really. And the rest would kill you if you didn't turn your guns in. Let's not kid ourselves about this. These are people that are trained and taught and brainwashed to not be one of we the people in America. They're the elite federal agents, not just FBI, all the agencies, park police included, all of them. Post office police included. Mint police, all of them, every one of them. If they carry a badge and a gun and get a paycheck and they could arrest people, they don't care about you. So this could cause, with the gold, this is vital to the people. This is just like guns to them. It's a necessary ingredient. Now a lot of them may just say, well, we'll just go to silver. We'll sell our gold back to them and get the silver. They might do that. See, once they announce this, if he does it with executive order, once they announce it, there is no more COMEX in trading gold in America. It's over. The only thing left you can do now, you can no longer use gold. You got to sell it to the government. Nobody's going to buy it. Let's just put it this way. It's kind of like, who the heck is going to buy it from you at a price higher than what the government redemption price is? Because ultimately it's going to have to go to the government. So people will sell it to the government, and then they could still do silver. Do I think he'll confiscate silver? No, zero. I don't think he'll ever try that. If he did, it would be a couple years down the road. They're not going to do silver. They'll have enough trouble doing gold. Could you go to a gun show and say, yeah, I'd like to buy your gun, I'll give you silver? And if the gun is clean and the guy's not a dealer, he just hands you the gun and you hand him the gold coin and you go your merry way. He doesn't care. I bought guns like that at gun shows. Quite a few. Just give them the money, they give you the gun and walk away. That's all. People come to the gun show and they want to sell a gun. The guy says, okay, what do you want? All right, I can't give you that, but I can give you this. The guy says, that's okay. Hands him the gun. The guy gives him the money, walks away. Or he maybe gets a receipt from the guy that never goes anywhere. So just give me a receipt. So if it's stolen, I don't get charged, because that's a problem. So he says, sale of blah, blah, blah gun, Glock 19, serial number, this and this, the date and the name, and the guy gives it to him. And then, maybe he needs his driver's license number, something like that. I had that. I went and bought a gun once. The guy said, write me a receipt. He says, you don't have to show me any ID, but just write me a receipt, that I sell the gun to him or I bought it. I bought a gun from him. He was basically telling me, you look like a good guy, you're another gun nut, so you don't need ID. I bought another Glock once, a 17, and the guy looked at my ID, looked at my gun license, looked at this, looked at me, and then he said, okay, and he took the money, and he just handed me the gun. It was a friend of his gun that the guy bought clean or something, and here's the gun, I bought guns before they had the yellow sheet. I remember doing that. You went into the store, you showed them your driver's license, and they had a local little Mickey Mouse form. It wasn't a federal form. And boom, you had your gun. No problem with it. I bought a 32 caliber Beretta that way. And I bought a 22 Magnum high standard Derringer that way. Just like that. People used to do. I remember I bought a gun from a guy. He sold me a Ruger 357 with the belt and the holster. He was in college. He needed money, and he came over to show me the gun wearing it, and we made a deal on the price. I gave him the money, just took the holster, the whole rig off, and handed it to me and said thank you. And That was it. We had no paperwork. That's how the world used to operate. Machine guns were before 68. You were able to buy and sell machine guns. I remember seeing the ads in Guns and Ammo before 68. Mail order guns were maybe 5, 6, 7 states. You couldn't do mail order guns. The other states you were able to do mail order guns. They were selling, it was a standard thing. They sold a anti-tank rifle. It was a big rifle that would go through a tank. It was called a Boys, B-O-Y-S, 51 caliber anti-tank rifle. They were about $100 back then, or $69 maybe, something like that. They're probably a lot of money today. And the ammo back then was probably 25 cents a round, where ammo used to be pennies, probably 25 cents. And they used to advertise it for the jackrabbit that got away. You can't hit a rabbit with something like that. The rabbit would explode. If you hit, a leopard with that thing, the thing would explode. You hit a moose with it, that would be more appropriate. That's like if you want to take down a 1,200-pound animal, or something like that. You use something like that, it'd be good for a 1,500-pound or 1,200-pound grizzly bear, because you'd get penetration through him. You wouldn't deliver all the energy into the body of the bear, because it would go in and go out, but it would, because it's armor piercing basically, but it would put him in shock. It would cause a hole on one side and go out the other side, so he'd be bleeding out of 2 holes, and it would break bones, no problem. So I don't know what, anybody who hunts animals with a 51 caliber rifle, it's about 35 pounds. You'd have to be in the 300-pound bench press club to be able to go walk around the woods with a 35-pound rifle for long. I mean, you're not gonna, take a 3-hour trek into the woods with that. And then, I mean, that'd be pretty tiring. I mean, there's a lot of people that could do it, but it would really knock you out, So anyway, yeah, I think Trump's going to pull it. If the price of the gold goes up enough, everybody in America will be sitting there. Look at this killing we made. Wow, we can go out and buy a new car. We can buy a new pickup. We can take the trip, the vacation. We can buy a house. We can buy a second house. We could buy a sailboat. We could buy a fishing boat. And see, the guys running the country, they hate, you don't know this, but they hate seeing somebody that's not a Satan bot have anything. They hate it. They hate it. Okay? You don't know. A lot of you don't know that. A lot of you do, I guess. But they hate it. And that includes the presidents. They're always Satan bots. So, Trump's going to try to steal it away from these people and use it for America. Is he going to try to buy it from you and do the price thing? Well, he might. If it's selling at $38,000 to $40,000, which is supposedly its true value, and I believe it, they might pay, he might say, well, that's not a real price, this temporary inflated. We're going to pay $27,218 or some, confuse you by making you think they picked an accurate price, right? And you're still going to get a pretty penny, and then after it's all over, they'll value it at $40,000. People are still going to get a lot of money. People are still going to buy a house and a car with it, but then he might come out with some sort of a capital gains tax on the precious metal. It's going to cause people to say no, Trump, and they're going to say that if anybody comes and takes my gold away, I'll kill him. And nobody's going to come to their house and take their gold away. but they're not going to be able to buy and sell with gold, because if they do and somebody finds out about it, they're going to get a prison sentence, and all their gold will be confiscated for nothing. So it'll be declared contraband. After that year is over, they give you a year to redeem it, or he might give you less. After that's over and you're holding bullion and stuff and coinage, it's considered contraband, and they just take it away from you. Like I said, if you're wearing a coin around your neck or something, they're not going to take it with a necklace. They're not going to buy it, you know. But if you got, 25 or 50 of these things in a safe, goodbye to take them, you know. If you got a couple of gold chains, even though they're big chains and they might have, 6 ounces of gold, they're not going to do it. If you got a gold Rolex, they're not going to take that away, okay? If you got a gold ring, you got a gold necklace, you got gold earrings for your wife, or she has a gold tiara, they're not going to take it away. They're not going to do that, but they're going to go after a gold bar, a gold coin that's not money, or will they take like gold, silverware, and gold, solid gold? I doubt it. They leave it alone. How many people have silverware made out of gold? Almost nobody. It's a lousy metal. The fork will bend, the knife will bend. It's stupid. Nobody really makes it that way. What they do is they'll take silver and coat it heavy with gold to look like gold, but nobody makes it out of gold. The metal's too soft. It doesn't work. If you wanted to make it out of gold and you made it out of 10-karat gold or 8-karat gold, it might work, but it wouldn't look like gold. It looks stupid. So you're not going to find that around. Like I say, silver, they're going to leave alone. And if you had a little menorah, like, this big out of gold, they probably wouldn't do anything. They'd say it was a religious artifact. If you had a cross that was even, religious artifact, they'll leave it alone. Okay? But if you had a menorah this big, they would take it away. But who has that made out of gold? Nobody. Yeah, like 90 pounds of gold. Who the heck has that? People have cups made out of gold. Sammy Davis used to perform live. I saw him once in Lake Tahoe, and he had a gold cup. I don't know what he put in it. At the end of the show, or I think even during the show, he was drinking it. Was it alcohol? It was a gold mug. It was solid. You couldn't see what he was drinking, and he said he was drinking coffee, I think. Or maybe he didn't say, but it could have been coffee. It really could have been coffee. He was older at that time. He must have been around 50. And this was in the 70s, and he was, maybe he needed an extra oomph. That guy was in great shape. He would be able to jump up in the air and click his heels. And I think he was about 50 or 50 something. Amazing. I could never do that when I was 20. He was really in good shape. I used to be able to in martial arts do front flying kicks, but I could never do the side flying kick. I was too muscular, too much weight. It's all being thin and wiry to do that flying side kick. You got to really get your weight way, way, way down. I never wanted to do that. I always had muscle, and it didn't work. But anyway, he was able to do it off to the side. He was skinny, and so people do have those, and what would they do with that? They'd probably leave you alone. You know how people smuggled gold out of Germany before Hitler really clamped down? They were letting people take their cars out of Germany, Jews, at the early, maybe 37, 38, I don't know, maybe even the beginning of 39. So they would take their car, and they would, this was very early on, and they would take the, what do they call it? Like if you have a Mercedes, you have a tool kit, you have a a tire iron to take the lugs off, and you have a wrench. You have pliers, you have a monkey wrench, you have a screwdriver, and things like that. You make molds out of these car tools, right? You got to get a mold, and you make the mold, and then you fill the mold with gold, right? And now you have a pliers made out of gold. It's very sophisticated to do this. It's not easy. You have a pliers, and you have a big screwdriver, and you might have a hammer, and then you paint it to look like it's regular metal, or you coat it would be even better, and then you put grease all over it and make it dirty. And people use this in more modern days of Russia to get out of Russia too. And they were able to get out with their car, but they couldn't get out with too much else, and they couldn't have a lot of money, or I don't remember, but that was another way they did it. They made the toolkit out of gold. But today you wouldn't have to make a whole toolkit out of gold. Back then, gold was very low value. Today, if you just made, a couple of screwdrivers out of gold, and coated them somehow and covered them up with grease, you'd have your fortune. I'm talking big, thick, long screwdrivers, or a tire iron, something like that. What's a tire iron? Probably 3-4 pounds. That's a lot of gold. If gold's at $30,000-$40,000 an ounce, you're talking, you'd probably be approaching a millionaire or a millionaire level. So this is something that you don't hear spoken about, but I heard it, and the other day when I heard it, it just went off in my spirit. I said, "Wow, I got to listen to this." And I would say this is something that Trump is considering, and he might be planning to do it, but he may never get there. But again, he might. I think it's something we got to look out for. Now, does that mean he's going to do it in Israel? No, he's not going to do it in Israel. They're not going to mess with people in Israel with gold. First of all, there's how many people in Israel running around with gold bars and gold coins? A pittance. How many people in Israel are running around with gold jewelry? Tons of that. How many people have gold menorahs in Israel? Probably there's some. What about gold Jewish stars, big ones with all over the place? They got that stuff, But it's not something that they're going to go after in Israel. No, it won't happen. No. That brings us back to precious stones. That's another way to go. They don't come up on metal detectors, by the way. Gold does, silver does, because it's a metal. But unseeded stones like emeralds, sapphires, rubies, diamonds even, don't, they don't come up on a metal detector. So it's an interesting situation. If it happens, people could always, it wouldn't be that hard to figure out how to melt the gold into jewelry and keep it as jewelry. And there would be a market to buy and sell jewelry. He's not going to shut down jewelry, so you could do it. If you were a watchmaker, or if you were a jewelry store and you had a kilo of gold laying around because you made jewelry, they'd probably leave you go with that, But you'd have to be a legitimate jeweler. You'd have to show them that you make, hundreds of jewelry pieces, and you're a real serious business. They'd leave you alone, I'm sure. Collector numismatic gold coins would be immune. unless you had hundreds of them or something like that. They'd probably leave you alone if you were a Bitcoin dealer. You'd probably get out of that. They're not looking for that. What they're looking for is the guy holding gold coins and gold bars to make a killing and to have his money safe in an investment. They don't want you having your money safe. They want you having all your money tied up in their stinking banks. So you're supporting the government, not going after the government. You want the government to continue because that's the only way your money continues. If you overthrow the government, the banks close and your money is gone. It's for their security they want this. So will it happen? I would say likely. Will it be successful? No. All right, switching. In these times, it says in the scriptures regarding the daughter of Babylon, which is America. Look at Trump, the great voice, the hammer of the whole earth. That's Trump. And it says he's going to do evil in our sight here in Israel. So is that going to happen? Yeah. How can that happen? Well, it could very likely happen here because Netanyahu's like Trump. He doesn't listen, okay? So Trump will tell him, oh, all you can do is attack their missile cities, right? And then Iran attacks us, and then Netanyahu gets mad and probably wouldn't blow up their oil wells or their refineries, but would blow up their airports, their ports, and their piers where they offload the oil. And that could get Trump furious. It's easy to take out a port. Ports have piers. In a modern area, you'd have a concrete pier that's literally, I've been on some that are about a half a mile. They're a quarter mile anyway, a half a mile sometimes. Probably a quarter mile, most of the big ones. It costs a lot of money to make a pier at a quarter mile, And then on the ground, they would have various facilities to pump oil and grain and other things into ships that you got to blow up and stuff like that. The idea is you make the port unusable for oil and everything else for as long as you possibly can, and you make the airport unusable for as long as you possibly can. But I think they both want a regime change, and I think that they're both not crazy, and they realize they got a problem. And I think that it's likely Trump no deal with Iran, very likely. And Netanyahu, you go attack him. Netanyahu can't attack the underground nuclear facilities because we don't have planes that carry 30,000-pound bombs. So it might be Trump says, I'll attack the nuclear facilities, you attack the missile cities. Something like that. And then Trump may actually start protecting the protesters by bombing the IRGC and stuff like that. If you, that's the way it's looking to me from here. So that's what it looks like. And I think that was, like I told you, that was the plan all the way from the beginning. Just like it was when Trump went to visit Biden just before October 7th, a few weeks before. That's it. Okay, let's take a look at the live stream. You want to bear arms to protect people like me, and the rest you'll be. I'm in Israel. What are you protecting me from? Are we attacking your country? You're after the young people. Well, one. I love coffee. The best coffee in the world to me is Cuban. It's contraband coffee in America. And it's not in Israel, but I have to look again and see if anybody's selling Cuban coffee here. Um, I like espresso too. Cuban coffee is probably stronger than espresso. Cuban coffee is great. If you get into people, get in America getting into, out of my cold dead hands, the old Charleston Heston NRA line, uh, you'll find a number of things. First of all, a lot of people are going to be very, very afraid to do it. Okay. And there are going to be a lot that will do it, and the police are going to get scared to death because they're just cowards. They're mercenaries. And then I worked in law enforcement as a young guy in the States, and they are maybe 2%, 5% ninjas. The rest of them just want the power, the prestige, the benefits. That's it. And they don't care about the people one bit. But if they see them themselves in danger, and people rise up against them, they'll just do nothing and suck a paycheck as long as they can because they're just mercenaries. And then when they can no longer do nothing and suck a paycheck, they'll leave. When the government does a drug raid, what do? They bring 16 cops to a house where there's 2 or 3 drug dealers. And even then they're scared, you know. And, that's how they work. They're not going to, but if you have a civil war, they won't answer calls because what'll happen is somebody will make a call, that there's a domestic dispute, and I hear the woman gagging. I think the guy is choking her and that kind of thing, and they'll send them to an address, and maybe at the corner of that street or something like that, they'll have a few guys waiting. And when the cop car comes down the street, boom, 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 they'll pump 20, 30 rounds really fast into the car, kill the cops, and that's it. So the cops will quickly stop answering calls. And when they go on shift and they get their cars out there, they might drive around on main streets and not bother anybody or go hide somewhere in a park or something. They're going to be real worthless. Federal agents too. In the military, a lot of the military, they see this going on in America. They'll just take their uniforms off and go home. They're not going to go around killing Americans. How many people in the military you think would do that? I would give it maybe 15%, 20, maybe 5%, almost none of them. They'll just take their uniforms off and go home. That's all you got to do. You just take your uniform off and leave, That's it. They're not going to, there's not patriots anymore. Like You think there were patriots in Vietnam? There were. I wasn't in it, but I was of age. But they they went in. A lot of them did. They were Marines. They were soldiers. They were special forces. They killed a lot. They got into this. They really were there. They went. Uh, they let you do 3 tours, and then they wouldn't let you do any more. They figured if you went for more than 3 tours, you'd be a basket case. So a lot of them went 2 tours, and then they just didn't even want to do a third tour. They just left the military. It was too depressing. But there were guys that did that, and then they'd send them back to the States, and they would be, working in ROTC or training or something like that. They had an easy job. America was a very, very nice place to live in the 60s and early 70s. Life was easy. And they got sent back to the States. They had, by that time, they were, like master sergeants or whatever they called them, senior sergeants. And they had at the time a reasonable pay scale. They got an off base living allowance. And they had a good time, Um, America was very safe. You didn't have mass shootings. You didn't have drug wars. You didn't have these problems. You had people would steal a tachometer out of your car or a tape deck. People would, burglars, they had to break into a house and steal whatever they could see real quick. But you didn't have home invasions. You didn't have these things going on. I don't think there was anything like that. But it got there. The 50s were even better. The 50s were people were even in New York leaving their doors open in the apartments. People weren't even locking the doors. I remember my mother when I was a small child. In the summer months, what they did is they gave us an extra door. The main door was a big solid wood core door with metal coating on it, metal covering, serious metal. And it had a very secure deadbolt, and you usually had a second lock that went up and down. So the second lock would stop you from prying, and the deadbolt would stop from pushing or kicking the door in. It was in a metal frame, and it was a solid wood core covered with metal. It was a very difficult door to get through. And it had a wood summer door that was made out of wood. It was a screen, but not a screen door, but a wood door, and it had slots in it. And it was light wood, and you closed it, and you had a little latch on it, So, I mean, all you had to do was shove it with your hand, and the latch would bend, and the door would open. And people would open up the door and the windows in the summer because very few houses had air conditioning in the early 50s. And you'd get a good flow through breeze that way. And people weren't afraid to live like that, you know. Women could go out. I remember even well into the 60s, women could go out by themselves at all hours of night, even into the 70s. But in the 50s, especially, there was no fear. People weren't afraid of that. They didn't have that problem. People weren't even breaking into cars. But again, you had a much better economy. And there weren't that many people that had needs. You had stupid people that would be drunk all the time, and they'd go to the bathroom on themselves and stand around and panhandle to get more liquor and get blotto drunk. And that was something very wrong with these people. But yeah, it was an easy life, and it was a safe life, and we didn't worry about mass shootings. Me and my friends used to ride the subways in New York all the time. I used to ride the subways when I was like 12 years old by myself. I would go all around New York with friends or by myself. Easy, steezy, no problem. Nothing happened. And my mother used to, tell me when she was a girl, she used to ride the subways too, all hours. And I used to come back at night when we were a little older. We were maybe 16, 17. We would use the subways late at night, like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Usually there was two or three or four of us, and we would go. We didn't have any problems, I think. We didn't have any trouble. Um, I never used the buses very much. I mean, I did to go to school occasionally when I had to, but I wasn't big on the buses. We used to like the subways better. Um, Buses, you got to know the route to know where to get off and get on. The subway, there's big signs, you know, to stop. It's easy. And if you walk around when you get off in a strange neighborhood, like you go from Bronx to Brooklyn or Queens, you're going to be you'll find out what subway stop to use. Then it's easy to find out how you got to switch trains to get to that subway stop. Easy. And then you get off and you could always look where the subway is to get back on the subway because they were above ground. The only place the subways were underground was in Manhattan. And the rest of they were out where you could see them. It was cool. In Manhattan, they'd come out from being underground and they'd go on the Brooklyn Bridge and they'd cross over the Brooklyn Bridge. And that was pretty scenic. It's pretty cool. That was one of the coolest things to see because the cars are driving next to the subways and there's people are walking on the bridge, not in the cold weather, in the warm weather. Pretty interesting bridge. And then you had the George Washington Bridge, which was amazing. That thing was super high and super loaded with cars. It had so many lanes. Then they had the Whitestone Bridge, which was very, very high also. And the Tappan Zee Bridge, which is huge. I mean, they had bridges. Let me tell you, they had bridges. So anyway, so if you guys are holding gold in America, be advised that something like this can happen. And Trump is going to keep it quiet. He's not going to give you notice for it because if he puts you on notice, people are going to find ways to deceive him and get out from giving it to him. You're not going to be able to take it out of the country. No. The only thing you could hope to do is people will sell molds. So you'll be able to buy a special pot, go to your stove, melt the gold, pour it into a mold, let the mold harden, and now you got yourself a big piece of jewelry that might have 3 or 4 ounces of gold in it. And you could probably get away with that, And people might make 2 of those or 3 of those, or you could make link chains that might be able to show you how to make the link chains and how to put the links together, and you could get away with it that way. And there's going to be a lot of that going on. So then you could always sell it, as jewelry. And it could lead to ruler fighting ruler, and we could be headed towards do evil in his sight. Netanyahu and this thing with Trump, they're both 2 crackpots. Birds of a feather flocking together, they're both abominations, but they're both lunatics and nutbags. And the fight will likely come. All right, I'll get a prayer out for us. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers and their households. I pray we would be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole, as well as our animals and pets. I pray we have your healing and recuperative power flowing through us so we don't get sick, ill, or hurt, and we heal up everything that should be healed. And I pray that we would have strength, stamina, and endurance. I pray if we need jobs, we find jobs. If we need clients and customers for our business, we find those and we have adequate money and then some. And I pray that we know the scriptures better. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Now, I've got somebody helping me with Rumble now. So I just want to tell you that's working out. I got Facebook going and I got Rumble. And I think we'll also do TikTok and maybe Instagram. I don't know. I don't know what to do with Instagram. If anybody knows Instagram and knows what to do with it, let me know. I don't know what you do with Instagram. My TikTok, I got a pretty good idea. You got to keep your videos short in TikTok. So what we're doing is we're taking my videos and we're using software to take out. I'm not. Someone else is. Take out the news stories because after a couple of days, the news stories aren't worth much of anything, and just use the Bible studies and spread the Bible studies around. Okay. So if anybody got any ideas about Instagram, I'd love to hear it. I don't know what to do. I'm on Twitter. I'm posting the videos again at Twitter. I don't know what went wrong for a few days. You couldn't get a video up, and now you can. Could have been an error. I don't know. So I'm using Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Telegram, and I think we'll be using TikTok. If any of you know of anything else that's worth using, I'm not aware of it, please let us know. Also, if you know of any foreign site, let me know. It would have to be a good site that has a lot of traffic that I don't have to spend money to be on. Okay. What else can I do? I can't monetize because then I'm selling the gospel. I can't sell products because then I'm making merchandise out of God's people. So the only thing I could do is if the people want to send an offering, they can send an offering. That's the only thing I could do. So if I double the size of subscribers, then possibly the offerings would double and I'd be able to afford decent food again. I had to eat some food the other day that was atrocious. My wife said, I don't know if you're going to eat this or not, but I got it down. You know, it's rough here. You know, now people help out and we do get, you know, sometimes we can get good food, but not, it bothers us and we worry about it, you know, and the rent is so high and I got to pay the property taxes on top of that, which is standard in Israel for people that rent. And I got to pay the electric bill, which is rough this time of year because you're running the heaters. It's rougher in the hot winter. That's worse. We get a lot of our heat from wood burning stove, so it makes it easier. When we hit this neutral period, which we're almost in, probably another 2 weeks, that means you don't have hot and you don't have cold. You don't have air conditioning and you don't have heat. You're just fine. And then when the weather warms up like now, what happens is we get free hot water. We don't have to turn the hot water heater on, which costs a lot of money to heat the water up in the bad weather. You got to turn it on 45 minutes to an hour. But you don't have to do that. You get there's enough sun to heat it up and you get hot water. And the problem in the hot weather here, you can't get cold water. You want to wash your hands with cold water, you got to turn the water on and wait a long time for it to get cold. It's rough. You're always getting hot water. It's weird, but that's not so bad either. You know, it really isn't. So we're getting into the warmer weather. So when it warms up, or you don't need a jacket and that kind of thing, usually that means you're in shorts anyway, short pants. And if you're lucky, you get 3, 4 months of that weather where it's just really nice all the time, and it's fun to sit outside. You know, just sit outside with the dogs, and you hang out. They just sit next to you, and you know. I lived in another country, and I had this big dog, a tough dog, a really big one, 125 pounds. And I'd sit outside with friends of mine, and he just loved to sit down there with us, like one of the boys. He loved it. He just got so happy about that. It didn't make any sense to him that he wasn't in the conversation. He just sat with us. He loved it. He just couldn't get enough. You know. So I still see people falling away. You know, they just go off into the wilderness. I don't know what happened to them anymore. People I was in contact with that had trouble, usually family problems, which could be children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and stuff like that. A husband, wife, parents. I mean, a lot of people had trouble like that, and a lot of them they go away. It's very hard to really help people long distance like that. Sometimes the Lord works with me, and I get it from the Holy Spirit what to say, what the problem is, what to do. Sometimes, and then sometimes I get nothing from the Lord, and that's when I stay out of it. I mean, I don't know what to say. And the first thing you got to remember is there's two sides to every coin. So if there's a problem in the family, you don't always assume the child's wrong, or the father or the mother is right. It could be the other way around. You don't know. So if you're not there physically and dealing with these people one-on-one, you don't know what's going on, and your better bet is to stay out of it. All right. So I'll keep you posted. And like I'm telling you, this war thing is getting more and more dangerous. This idiot Trump might do a nuclear deal with Iran, which is worthless, do trade deals with Iran, abandon the people of Iran that he told he would help, which is basically abandoning them. A nuke deal doesn't do a thing for them. And then letting Israel attack the missile sites, which is probably not going to do much good. And what's he going to do? Did he say if Iran counterattacks, we'll get into the fight? No, he didn't. So what are they doing? Netanyahu and him, it looks to me like they're trying to hurt Israel. And I believe that with Netanyahu. That's my opinion. But look what he did before. He went into the 12-day war and then stopped when he had him. Okay, kids, I'm out. I hope you got something out of this. I'll keep you updated. And I'm sorry we didn't get any spiritual warfare or Bible work done today, but sometimes it's important that we just cover this stuff. And I think it was important that you knew about the confiscation of gold potential. And remember that they tend to ignore silver. I don't think they confiscate silver. So, you can just invest in silver and keep your gold holdings to a minimum. I'm out. Thanks.